Hello, and thank you for choosing this session. My name is Khadijah Ali Coleman. I decided to record outside. It's a really beautiful day, very rare, beautiful day in March, where I can literally have the nerve to come outside without being fully adorned in a coat and a hat. I am actually on the college campus where my high schooler is dual enrolled as a community college student. And so I have another session that talks about choosing dual enrollment as a homeschooling parent of a high schooler. But this session is about having the social capital necessary to actually begin your homeschool journey. I have been homeschooling now for 12 years, off and on, since my daughter was 4 years old. And so, off and on, because sometimes we made the decision for her to attend school, public school, a traditional school setting, and as recently as high school, and right now, we've made the decision to homeschool. And so, in within the different phases of her development, from being an early learner, preschooler, to elementary school, to middle school, and now in high school, I have always had to assess whether or not I had the social capital necessary to be as pivotal in her educational journey as possible. As you all know, as homeschooling parents, we're responsible for curating our child's educational experience. And so, what that entails is really assessing what resources we have at our disposal to truly be optimal in the educational experience that we curate for our children. Social capital is a term that's really starting to gain attention because what it recognizes is that even there, of course, we think of capital, we think of money, but capital is really resources. And while people who have the economic capital, the money resources, to really do whatever they wish for their students, whether it's enroll them in a fancy or expensive optimal learning experience in a private or public school setting. Some people don't have that economic capital. Some people have the economic capital and choose still to not really use that for education. As homeschooling families, we're a diverse lot. Research shows that homeschooling families usually are two-parent homes with income that is usually above average for the national norms. But when you start looking at families based on ethnicity and race, it really starts to change. And what you find is that there are a lot more single mothers and families that aren't necessarily at that middle class or even upper middle class. Usually working class and sometimes below the poverty line, choosing to homeschool because sometimes our choices for our children in traditional school settings are not the optimal spaces that we want our children to be in. And so when we're assessing our capital, we don't necessarily always have the economic capital, but we definitely have social capital. And so this session is about assessing whether or not we have the social capital that is optimal for curating our children's homeschool experience. So, I wanted to start with first giving a bit of a background on what are some of the variations when we talk about social capital? See, some people have large quantities of capital because they're socially active. They're possibly very extroverted and members of many groups. I have a good friend who is a part of a sorority. She's part of many community groups, maintains contact with all of her group of friends from her college alma mater, and regularly participates in alumni events and has done so for more than 20 years. When she has any type of event or needs people to support a new venture of hers, she gets overwhelming support from these networks because she holds an abundance of what I am terming as social capital. Me, on the other hand, I struggle with making connections with others. Um, I'm, I am. I call myself. Uh, Extrovert on purpose, meaning that I'm naturally introverted, but professionally I've had to engage in roles where I've had to make contact with the public and be extroverted. But in general, I tire of large groups very easily. I'm not part of a sorority. I have a handful of people I've kept in touch with over the years. I don't have a close family structure, and I don't have much connection with any of my alma maters, even though I had a really great undergraduate experience in college. Um, And so, because I'm introverted, I don't make personal connections easy or often, but I have social capital through the work I do as a creative. I work within my community as an arts curator. I work in a museum. I'm actually a performance artist. I'm also a former journalist. I've done plenty of work in community organizations as an organizer. And so, because of my work, and because my work has required me to create spaces for others, um, interview them, showcase them, just make these connections, I've become privy of people, ideas, and happenings outside of my normal purview. Of course, people are gonna come out here and be loud when I'm trying to do this session, but outside of my normal purview, um, I'm known to various individuals and institutions. Of course, these groups and these people think that I'm more extroverted than I really am. So when I decided to homeschool, I had an awareness of certain opportunities because of this social capital. And so I had a knowledge of where to look for opportunities that weren't always public knowledge. So a homeschooling parent's social capital determines how rich a child's homeschooling experience will be. So if a parent is not apt to look effectively within or outside of their natural setting for opportunities for their children to make connections, apply learning, and express themselves, then the educational experience they curate will not reach its optimum impact. So if you struggle with building your own social capital through unique relationships with others, I wanted to give you these tips to begin building your social capital in a way that will benefit your children as you plan to homeschool. So my first bit of advice is to join an online homeschool group to discover resources you never considered before. So online homeschool groups have been a valuable resource for me since I started homeschooling, and more than 10 years ago, there definitely weren't anywhere near as many homeschool groups as there are now. Um, Being active online in general was not a thing 10 years ago as it is now. But through online groups, I've met other parents, learned about free events and classes in the area, and considered different learning strategies when I join groups where parents gather. For the past few years, Facebook has been a valuable source for homeschooling, as there are national groups that include folks from across the country to more niche groups that are specific to your region. Homeschool groups help you build your social capital by putting you in space to network, share, and gather information. I'm sure that you're pretty much familiar with some that led you to this homeschool conference, but some that I recommend that I'm a part of or highly recommend, and that are specific to where I'm located in the DC metro area, because I live in Maryland, is the African American Single Parent Homeschoolers Group, the DMV Homeschool Teen Socials Group on Facebook, the DMV Black Homeschoolers Group, the Free Up Baltimore Homeschool Co-op for African-centered families, and the Black Homeschooling Family Support Group. Those are some that I would recommend now. Um, and so get connected online. My second tip is to sign up for mailings from your local libraries, your recreation centers, and your museums. Um, Free and inexpensive offerings are just in abundance at your local libraries, your recreation centers, and your museums. And so when I was homeschooling for my daughter's elementary school years, when she wasn't in public school, the recreation centers were a rich resource of opportunities. She studied gymnastics, Spanish, tennis, swimming, and science. Yes, science at our local parks and recreation centers. The quarterly catalogs allowed me to get an early start to planning her annual curriculum, as I could count on courses at Parks and Rec to be fun, interactive, and convenient components of her routine. Um, we also, I have a thing for libraries. As a performer, I perform at libraries and museums often, and so many of the families in the audience I've noticed as a performer are homeschooling families. Libraries are becoming interactive educational spaces more and more, and most often they They offer everything from book clubs and computer clubs to history performances and special research rooms. So I recommend that you visit your libraries and meet the librarians to learn what special mailing lists you can become a part of to be in the loop regarding free events and programs. I'm the scholar in residence at a museum, the Prince George's African American Museum and Cultural Center. We have a mailing list. There are membership packages for families. At libraries, you also come across flyers and notices for local festivals as well. So when you come across this info, be sure to visit websites so you can join mailing lists and have information come straight at you. Um, then lastly, check out your local colleges and universities for community programs for youth and children. All public colleges and universities have programs for youth and children. Some have programs only during the summer, while some have programs during the school year. My daughter attended the Young Terps Scholars Summer Program at the University of Maryland College Park when she was 14 years old, and she has attended programs at other colleges and universities, including Morgan State University, where I'm a doctoral student at, when she was younger. At the University of Maryland, during the Young Terps Scholars Program, she stayed on campus and took a writing course that she received college credit for. And the program offered a scholarship that she was eligible for and we received assistance for that program. Morgan State University offers a catalog of offerings. You just go on the website and you can get that for the entire year. So in short, as you build your social capital, it's really necessary to do the legwork. It's not something where you're always going to have people, I've seen when I've been in these Facebook groups, someone just posts, "I'm new to homeschooling, can someone help me?" That's not how it works. Like, some folks may respond to that, but for the most part, like, for instance, when you go in these Facebook groups, they have a search little slot for you to type in keywords. You can actually put in museums and do a search of a Facebook group, and see what people have already posted, whether it's links to certain libraries and museums or opportunities, or just getting a sense of who are the people in this group who seem to be the most apt to post up-to-date free resources, low-cost resources. But you have to do the legwork. Building your social capital, particularly when we're looking at social capital as being just as important, if not more important, than economic capital during a homeschool journey. It's really going to be about what you put into it initiative-wise, doing the legwork, doing the research, being organized, being committed to broadening your resources that extend outside of your immediate environment. The reason why you have homeschools, you see the news and you see these stories of someone who was 12 or 14, these really extreme stories of children graduating from college early, or writing books and things like that. It sounds really far-fetched, but the reality is that these students are in proximity to opportunities that their parents have provided for them. If the opportunity is not something that you yourself is able to offer, you can definitely gain proximity by doing the research to finding things that are free and available for your child. I wish you the best on your search, and I want to let you know that it is definitely possible to build your social capital. And if you have any further questions or concerns, I would love it if you can link up with me. You can check out my blog at soyaonline.wordpress.com. You can also visit me at my educational website, KhadijahOnline.com or KhadijahAliColeman.com. And you can also visit me at studentmediaonline.com. Thank you so much for joining this session.
Black girls been lifting, black girls been lifting, black girls been lifting this world. Black girls been lifting, black girls been lifting, black girls been lifting this world. Don't you ever forget it, part your lips to dismiss it, turn your face to ignore the truth. Black girls, yes, black women, building this world we're living. We are the founding roots. girls keep rising, black girls keep on fighting. So raise your voice and join.